It was 3:17 in the morning, and Anna was on her third cup of cold coffee. The screen was still lit from the notification. One message. Unknown number. But Anna knew that number. The message was short. Just 4 words. Chioi, Can. Anna didn't read the rest. Her thumb moved before her brain could catch up, muscle memory forged through 7 years of practice, swipe, delete, confirm. Gone. Like it never happened. Like Maria never happened. She set the phone face down on the counter, and that's when she noticed her hand was shaking. Not the gentle tremor of too much caffeine. This was the full-body kind of shaking that starts somewhere deep in your chest and works its way outward, the kind that made her grip the edge of the granite countertop just to feel something solid. Let me tell you about that kitchen. It's the kind of kitchen that belongs in a restaurant owner's home, professional-grade everything, pots hanging from a rack above the island, a spice collection organized alphabetically because Anna organizes everything alphabetically now. Control isn't just her coping mechanism. Control is her religion. And she worships at the altar of every spreadsheet, every inventory count, every perfectly plated dish that leaves her kitchen because if she can control the small things, maybe the big things won't destroy her again. But here's the thing about 3:17 in the morning. Control doesn't work at 3:17 in the morning. Anna opened the cabinet above the refrigerator, the one she never opens when anyone else is around, and pulled down a shoebox. The cardboard had gone soft at the corners, yellowed with age, the lid fitting loose now after being opened and closed 1,000 times in the dark. She didn't take off the lid. She just held it. Both hands pressed flat against the sides like she was trying to feel a heartbeat through the paper. Inside that box were 20 years of photographs. 2 sisters. Anna and Maria. Maria and Anna. The older one with her arm always around the younger one's shoulders. The younger one always looking up at the older one with that specific kind of trust that only exists before betrayal enters the vocabulary. Anna's thumb found the edge of the lid, and for just a moment, she started to lift it. But then her fingers brushed against something else, a raised line of scar tissue on her inner wrist, about 2 inches long, faded now to a silvery white but still there, still whispering. She pulled her hand back like she'd touched a hot burner. Here's a memorable truth for you, and I need you to really sit with this one. Some wounds we hold onto so tightly that they become our identity. We don't know who we are without them anymore. That scar. Anna told everyone it was from a kitchen accident. Hot pan. Distracted moment. The story was so well rehearsed she almost believed it herself. But the truth that she'd never told anyone, not her employees, not her pastor, not the therapist she saw exactly 3 times before deciding therapy was just paying someone to watch her lie, the truth was that scar was from a night 7 years ago. A parking lot behind her restaurant. 2 o'clock in the morning. Rain coming down in sheets. And Anna sitting on the wet asphalt next to her car, staring at a bank statement on her phone that showed a balance of 0. 280 million dong. Gone. Every single dong from their joint account. And on the withdrawal authorization, a signature she'd recognize anywhere. Maria's signature. The same loopy M, the same little heart over the I, the same handwriting Anna had taught her when Maria was 12 years old and struggling in school, and Anna sat with her at the kitchen table for hours, guiding her little sister's hand across the paper. See? You can do it. I knew you could do it. That memory hit harder than the betrayal itself. Anna didn't try to end her life that night. But she sat in that parking lot asking God a question that would follow her for the next 7 years. What's the point of living if the person you loved most could do this to you? And then another question, quieter but more dangerous. God, you saw it all. You watched Maria practice that signature. You watched her walk into the bank. You watched her empty everything we built together. And you did nothing. So either you're not good, or you're not paying attention, or you just don't care about people like me. That's not the kind of prayer they teach you in Sunday school. But it's the kind of prayer that comes out at 2 o'clock in the morning in an empty parking lot when you've run out of theological answers and all you have left is the ugly, honest truth. Anna survived that night. Physically, anyway. Emotionally, she did what so many of us do, she built a fortress. She turned the restaurant into a machine. No business partners. No shared accounts. No one with access to anything that could hurt her. She hired staff but never let anyone get close enough to become a threat. She went on dates but ended things the moment someone asked about her family. "I don't really have family," she'd say, and it wasn't exactly a lie. It was more like a scar that had healed over something still infected underneath. 14 letters. That's how many times Anna tried to write to Maria in those first 2 years. She never sent any of them. But she kept them all, hidden in a different cabinet from the photo box, because even her denial needed its own organized space. Some of the letters were angry. Some were desperate. One was just 17 pages of question marks. One was a single sentence, "Was it worth it?" She read them sometimes, late at night, like she was studying the artifacts of someone else's grief. Here's where I need to pause and give you a mirror moment. Because maybe you've never had a sister steal your life savings and disappear. But I bet you know what it feels like to be betrayed by someone you trusted completely. I bet you know the specific exhaustion of replaying conversations, looking for the moment you should have known, the red flag you should have caught. I bet you know what it's like to lie awake at 3:17 in the morning, scrolling through old memories, wondering if the good parts were ever real or if you just needed them to be. And if you're honest, really honest, you might also know what it's like to hold onto the wound because letting go feels like saying it didn't matter. And it did matter. It mattered so much. Anna found God in the hospital that week. At 6:45 in the morning, Maria's watch beeped softly against her wrist, the same watch she'd worn for 7 years, the plastic band cracked and held together with a safety pin she'd found in the laundry room. Her hands moved automatically now, muscle memory from thousands of mornings exactly like this one. Tuck the sheet corners at 45 degrees. Smooth the blanket until there are no wrinkles. Fluff the pillow twice, not once, not 3 times. Mrs. Chen, 83 years old, room 217, liked her pillow fluffed exactly twice. But here's what nobody saw, the book in her scrub pocket. A Bible. Not just any Bible, her grandmother's Bible. The leather cover had peeled away in patches, revealing the cardboard beneath. The gold edges of the pages had turned brown, stained from years of fingers tracing promises in the dark. Maria had sold everything during those years of addiction. But never this Bible. And here's where I need to pause, because this is a mirror moment. Maria held on to this Bible. Not because she was strong. Not because her faith was unshakable. She told me once, sitting in the break room at the nursing home, stirring powdered creamer into cold coffee, even in my craziest moments, when I couldn't remember my own name or where I was or what day it was, I knew I needed something to come back to. Something that would still be there when the drugs wore off and I had to face myself again. The only verse she could remember during withdrawal, the 2 a.m. kind, when your bones feel like they're breaking from the inside and your skin is crawling and you're begging God or anyone to just let you die, was from Luke's Gospel. She'd whisper it over and over, her voice cracking, her lips dry and bleeding, "God, have mercy on me, a sinner." That's it. That's the whole prayer. 7 words. She didn't have the strength for anything more. She didn't have the theology for anything more. She just had 7 words and a Bible she couldn't bring herself to sell. Some people think faith is about having all the answers. Maria's faith was 7 words whispered at 2 a.m. in a rehab center that smelled like bleach and despair. And then came the diagnosis. Dr. Patterson sat across from her in his office, a room with no windows and a plant that had died 3 months ago but nobody had bothered to remove. He used words like stage 3 and creatinine levels and glomerular filtration rate. Maria watched his mouth move and heard numbers, 4.2, 15%, 2 years maybe less, but none of it felt real. It felt like someone else's life, someone else's failing kidneys, someone else's countdown. "You'll need a transplant," he said, closing the folder. "Within 2 years. Sooner is better." Maria nodded. She took the pamphlets. She signed the forms. She walked out into the parking lot and sat in her car, a 2003 Corolla with a passenger door that didn't open and an air conditioner that only worked in winter, and she didn't cry. Because here's the truth Maria had been carrying for 7 years, the truth she'd never told anyone, the truth that sat in her chest like a stone: this is fair. This is what I deserve. I took $280 million from my sister. I took 7 years of peace from her life. I took her trust and I crushed it in my fist. I don't get to ask for more. I don't get to ask for a kidney. I don't get to ask for anything. That's not humility. That's not even guilt. That's the kind of self-condemnation that masquerades as accountability but is really just another form of prison. Maria decided she would not tell Anna. Not because she was proud. Not because she was afraid. But because she genuinely believed she had forfeited the right to be saved. Now let me shift the camera. Because at the exact same time Maria was reading those pamphlets in her car, her sister Anna was 45 minutes across town, standing in the kitchen of her restaurant, counting money. Not in a joyful way. Not in a grateful way. In the way a soldier checks his weapons before battle. Anna counted every bill twice. She checked the security cameras 3 times each night, once at 9 p.m., once at 10:30, once right before she locked up at 11 o'clock. She had fired 3 managers in 7 years for inconsistencies that any other restaurant owner would have overlooked. A missing 20 here, a suspicious voided transaction there. Anna couldn't overlook anything anymore. Trust wasn't a virtue in her world. Trust was a liability, a crack in the armor, an invitation for someone to destroy everything she'd rebuilt. She hadn't taken a vacation in 7 years. She hadn't been in a relationship that lasted longer than 4 months. She hadn't let anyone, not a single person, get close enough to see the files in the cabinet behind her desk, the ones labeled in her neat handwriting, Maria's letters. Never sent. 14 of them. 2 years of trying to write something that could bridge the impossible gap between rage and love. And then, at 10:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night, Anna's phone rang. She was in her office, still wearing her chef's coat, the sleeves rolled up past her elbows, her hair escaping from the bun she'd thrown together 14 hours earlier. The screen lit up with a number she didn't recognize, but something in her stomach dropped before she even answered. "Ms. Nguyen? This is St. Joseph's Hospital. Your mother has had a fall. She's stable, but there are some complications. We need you to come in." Anna drove to the hospital in her pajama pants and her chef's coat, her hands shaking on the steering wheel, the streets empty and wet from an earlier rain. She ran 3 red lights. She didn't care. The only sound in the car was her own breathing, ragged, uneven, terrified, and one question looping in her mind: God, please. Not her too. I can't lose her too. She burst through the emergency room doors at 11:17 p.m., her sneakers squeaking on the linoleum, her eyes scanning the waiting room for a nurse, a doctor, anyone who could tell her where her mother was. And that's when she saw her. Maria was standing at the end of the hallway, near the vending machines, her back pressed against the wall like she was trying to disappear into it. She looked like she'd aged 15 years in the 7 since Anna had last seen her. Her face was thinner, her cheekbones sharp, her hair pulled back in a ponytail that showed streaks of gray Anna had never seen before. She'd lost weight, 10 kilos at least, maybe more. Maria didn't say sorry. She didn't say please. She reached into her jacket, a thin windbreaker that had probably been navy blue once and was now just the color of too many washes, and pulled out an envelope. "I didn't destroy us because of gambling," Maria said. "I destroyed us because I chose money over you. The gambling was just the tool. The real sin was looking at my sister and seeing a transaction instead of a person. "This isn't a letter asking for forgiveness," Maria said. "I don't have the right to ask for that. This is just the truth. What I did with the truth after I stole it." Inside was a savings account passbook. The kind with the magnetic strip on the back and the little columns for deposits and withdrawals. The name on the account was Anna Nguyen T. The balance was 280 million dong. Behind the passbook was a statement, 84 rows, one for every month of 7 years. Every single month, a deposit. Sometimes 2 million. Sometimes 3.5. Once, only 800,000. But every month. Without fail. From the salary of a nursing home aide who made barely enough to feed herself. The memo line on the first deposit, in handwriting so small Anna had to hold it up to the parking lot light to read it. Thang Thursday not. M. Dang Co. Month 1. I'm trying. Anna's legs gave out. Not dramatically. She just sort of folded onto the wet curb at the edge of the parking lot, the passbook getting rained on, the ink starting to blur, and she didn't care. She sat there in her pajama pants and her chef's coat and her 43 years of carefully constructed armor, and for the first time in 7 years, she cried. Not because of the money. The money was almost beside the point. She cried because she suddenly understood that while she had spent 7 years building a fortress of anger, her little sister had spent 7 years in a prison of her own making, working a job no one dreams of as a child, giving every spare dong to an account she would never touch, walking through every single day knowing the person she loved most in the world hated her. Anna had thought she was the only one in pain. She had thought her anger was righteous. She had thought Maria had just moved on. But Maria hadn't moved on. Maria had been doing penance in a nursing home for 7 years, cleaning bedpans and holding the hands of dying strangers, trying to become the kind of person who would never again choose money over love. And here's the thing about unforgiveness. It feels like power. It feels like you're holding someone accountable. It feels like justice. But unforgiveness is just a cage where you're both the prisoner and the warden. You lock the other person out, but you also lock yourself in. Every day you refuse to forgive, you're drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. That's not a Bible verse. That's just what Anna realized at 12:47 a.m. in a hospital parking lot, holding a soaking wet passbook, with rain mixing into the tears on her face. Here's the mirror moment, and I need you to really sit in this with me. Anna was not crying because Maria had paid her back. She was crying because she realized that for 7 years, she had believed a lie. The lie was this: if I forgive her, that means what she did wasn't wrong. If I let go of the debt, that means the debt wasn't real. But forgiveness doesn't say the debt wasn't real. Forgiveness says the debt isn't yours to collect anymore. Forgiveness isn't pretending the wound never happened. Forgiveness is deciding the wound won't define the rest of your life. Here's your memorable truth. Write this down somewhere. Forgiveness is not forgetting, it's releasing a debt for your own sake, because the weight of unforgiveness only crushes the one carrying it. Anna drove home at 1:30 in the morning. She didn't go to bed. She went to the filing cabinet behind her desk, the one with the folder labeled Maria's letters. Never sent. 14 letters she had written over 2 years and never mailed because she couldn't find words big enough to bridge the gap between rage and love. But that's not what she was looking for. She reached to the back of the drawer, behind all the files, and pulled out a shoebox. The shoebox. The one she'd told herself she kept because she might need evidence someday, because she might need to remember why she couldn't trust anyone, because she might need armor against ever being fooled again. Inside the shoebox were 14 letters from Maria. Letters Anna had told everyone she'd returned. Letters she'd told herself she'd thrown away. Letters she had kept, unopened, for 7 years, because opening them would mean admitting Maria still existed in her world. And underneath the letters, a card. Handmade. From Maria's 16th birthday, when Anna was 22 and had just opened the restaurant and had no money for a real gift, so she'd spent 3 hours making this card with magazine cutouts and glitter glue and a photo of the two of them at the beach. Maria's handwriting on the inside, Sheila Nuayem Nwanimona Trendoy. You are the person I admire most in the world. Anna opened the first letter. The oldest one. Postmarked from a rehabilitation center she didn't know Maria had ever been in. Chioi, Hamne Lage Thursday 30 Kong Dan Biasi. Nuoi Taino I Kan Engian Kong Bao Jiothe Doi. And Hanyem Dak Tron Kin Tan Rang Chua Lam Wamwasu. M Kong Beat Ko Dung Kong. And Hong M Muan Tin. Day 30 without gambling. People say addicts never change. But I read in the Bible that God makes all things new. I don't know if it's true. But I want to believe. Anna read all 14 letters that night. In order. From the rehab center to the halfway house to the first nursing home job to the second. Letters that got steadier as the months went on. Letters that stopped asking for forgiveness and started just telling Maria's story. Letters that became a chronicle of a woman trying to become someone worthy of being loved again. And somewhere around letter 9, Anna stopped reading as the wrong sister and started reading as a fellow human being who also needed grace, who also had done things she couldn't undo, who also woke up some mornings and didn't recognize the person in the mirror. Here's where Scripture becomes the answer, not just a reference. In Colossians chapter 3, verse 13, Paul writes something that sounds beautiful in church and impossible in real life: forgive as the Lord forgave you. That's not a suggestion.